Talk Radio.
Stroll through the pictures, what I've left behind. Here once again, I'm locked up in memories, they all intertwine. The memories in my mind. I know tomorrow, 'cause that dawn will come. You will never know just what you have done.
Hello and good evening. Welcome to the NAASCA Stop Child Abuse Now and Blog Talk Radio Show. NAASCA is the National Association of Adult Survivors of Child Abuse. My name is Victoria, and I'm your host for the evening. And my co-host, I think, is Ann. She isn't on yet. If not, I'll be answering the back lines. And we are on scan number 3252. I'm excited to introduce to you our special guest this evening. However, first, I would like to tell you that we have a single purpose at NAASCA, which is to address issues related to childhood abuse and trauma, including sexual assault, violent or physical abuse, emotional traumas, and neglect, and we do so with only two goals. One, educating the public, especially as related to helping society get over its taboo of discussing childhood sexual abuse, CSA, and setting facts showing child abuse to be a pandemic worldwide problem that affects everyone. And two, offering hope and healing through numerous paths, providing many services to adult survivors of child abuse and information for anyone interested in the many issues involving prevention, intervention, and recovery. Again, we are on scan number 3252. And if you'd like to be part of the panel this evening, please call 646-595-118. That's 646-595-2118. And my co-host or myself will be on the back line and ask if you'd like a question or have anything to say. We'd love to have you join us as support our guest. Now, our special guest today is Pastor Deborah. I know I said it wrong. Grew up all over the world in military families where her mother was mentally ill and is now a survivor professional. Living in Pensacola, Florida, she's trained in ministry, mental health, working with substance abuse, and is trauma-informed social worker, all in one. She volunteers with many community organizations. Pastor Deborah says she can minister by text, phone, Skype, in person, and however the Lord directs her 24/7. She teaches that humans have three parts, being of spirit, soul, and the physical body, and believes that all three are important and that each area needs care. We look forward to Pastor Deborah being an active member of the NAASCA's family. Oh, no. She's been an active member of the NAASCA family for a long time. On these episodes, we welcome various co-host survivor professionals who will assist in fielding questions and lead a variety of topics suggested by our column participants. Their trauma-informed perspectives as survivor professionals will help guide them through discussions of the issues of child abuse, trauma, and healthy human sexuality. And everyone's invited to engage in today's show. And also, please visit the NAASCA, NAASCA.org website. We've got about 42 programs on there that are worth really looking at. So, without further ado, hello, Pastor Deborah. How are you tonight?
Hello, Miss Victoria. I'm doing really well.
Oh, that's
doing
great.
Really good. Yeah, we're here in Pensacola, Florida, under a high heat dome. Our days are about 100 degrees and plus, but we have no hurricanes, no fires, no floods, no earthquakes. It's just hot, but we are getting through it. And, it's kind of hot. But I'm doing real well. I've been real busy today doing a lot of editing on videos and getting ready to do some more recording on some more teaching and things like that.
Oh,
and so I'm doing real good. Yeah, doing great.
Great.
We got any guests online?
I don't see anybody on yet. Nope, just you and I.
Okay.
And then
I
also want to bring up something that I'd like some prayer from you and other people. I normally don't go on that My Chart thing through my doctor because it just disturbs me so much. But I got a message that says go on it and look at your blood test results, and I went on it. And I have had stage 3 kidney failure, and the test that I just did came up stage 4, which is worse to me. And so it's stage 5 is where you do what's called dialysis, or you're on the list for transplant.
Yeah.
And I was on that when I first got kidney failure, and then it got better. And it got better. It went from 15 to up to 40%.
Okay. So what prayer
had
for?
Diet and exercise and everything.
Okay. All right, but, Victoria.
I have to start drinking more water and taking better care of myself. And it's just a really hard thing to do.
Well, here's the thing, Victoria. What I tell people, you can get kidney transplants, from other people and stuff. Very difficult. But you can do a lot. You can do research, on YouTube and on Google about how to help yourself have healthier kidneys, drinking more water. Here's what usually how I help people is you must have thought about, why am I still here? I had a lot of bad stuff happen to me as a child, a lot of trauma, a lot of ick. It didn't kill me physically.
Right.
It did some damage. Mm-hmm. But why am I still here? Okay, and you have to first ask that question. Then you must get the answer. And the typical answer is, you have a purpose. Now, spiritually, you have an enemy who wants to kill you. And if he can get you to not take care of your own body correctly, drink more water, eat right, exercise, blah, 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 deal with your stress, he's happy. You're doing self-suicide by not caring about your physical body. And you have to come to a conclusion that I have a reason why I'm still alive. Here's how I do it. I've got I got a pacemaker. I have been poisoned, shot at, almost stabbed and killed in my own home, trying to help people. But I told this Satan guy, who's the adversary of God, who I serve, he cannot take me out. I have a purpose. He can hit me good, and he has, but he cannot take me out. Until I've prayed my last prayer, I have done the ministry I'm supposed to do, made my last video, did this, did that. Then I will decide when I will go. I will sit down in a chair with the Bible, read Psalms, close my eyes, and I'm out of here. Because I have a purpose for being here on the planet. Now, it's an attitude. And from there, you can go and say to yourself, I have a purpose, therefore I will drink more water. I will lose weight. I will eat correctly. I will get a handle. No more excuses. If you don't do that, you are committing suicide. You're killing yourself. And nobody is going to, the doctors try to tell you, and we are lazy people. We make excuses. We don't want to change. We don't want to do anything. And there's a lot of counselors and doctors who know that about humanity. And I go, I'll just see you on the other side, because you won't listen to us. You won't study. You won't do what's right. If you smoke cigarettes and you won't give it up, if you drink alcohol and you won't get help, we look at you and say, well, just watch us slowly die. We have very little sympathy for you because we've got young kids who are getting traumatized that they want to live. So our attentions, we're short. I'm just saying, so you have to learn. You don't use the NAASCA show to tell everybody about your personal health conditions. It doesn't help child sexual abusers to be healed. You call me personally. You don't use the show about your personal medical problems. That's not what it's for. It's to help people tell their story about their child abuse, to bring healing and hope to them. So what you would need to do is call me personally or a person, and then you can talk. But the show is about healing from child sexual or child abuse. You don't waste people's listening time with your personal. We have to stay on track because when listeners listen to it, they go, yeah, but I don't have that. That's not my problem. So what I wanted to get back to is the topic for tonight. It's called The Rays of Healing. I'm going to use an illustration using a white glass pyramid. And if you ever see, just shine a flashlight into it. We call it white light, into a glass pyramid. Out on the other side, you will see the colors of the rainbow. And how that works is when you see a rainbow in the sky, light from the sun is shining through water drops that are in the clouds that are clear. You know, water drops are clear. But when it goes through that, refractions occur, and the white light breaks up into the many different colors that are in the light. And I wanted to talk about how when, for somebody who's had childhood abuse trauma, teenage years, what is required and what is in healing. And that is first love, agape love, not human love, but a powerful love source as a white light must come into your soul and your spirit. It breaks out, and here's what you get in just love. You get a feeling of safety, a feeling of comfort, feeling of peace. You get an anchor to your self-image. I am loved. I'm valued. You get an image of yourself that you're wanted. Values start developing. You're starting to feel whoever this person is that's comforting me with a bottle or the breast, changing my diaper, whatever that is. They're playing with me. Their touch is not hurtful. You're feeling safe, protected. You're feeling at peace. All that comes in love. So when a child does not get that in childhood and through trauma or abuse, all those areas that are in love are perverted, twisted, destroyed. Wounds come in that fester. Your image you're supposed to have of that you're a loved person or something gets destroyed. You don't feel safe. The relationship between this person is destroyed. It's perverted and twisted. There's no comfort. You don't feel safe. So when somebody goes and tries to seek healing, either from a therapist or different peer-to-peer supports or AA meetings or NA or inpatient hospitalizations or therapy, whatever they're trying, life coaching, something like that. Or if you get a good pastor or spiritual person, the person is seeking that a lot of things. Does that make sense, Victoria?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So how it comes in, if you can visualize light from the sun, it's an outside source coming through clear raindrops or a crystal pyramid, and you will see the colors of the rainbow break out through that. Because those colors, those different frequencies and of the light are already in the light. We call them wavelengths or different things of light. A lot of times, we see one level, but animals at nighttime, their eyes to see different frequencies of the light. We know there's different frequencies of sound. In agape love, which is not human, coming from an outside source, that's why you can never heal yourself. You can never have any kind of yourself that has been yourself in your soul or your spirit can never heal itself. It will do self-protection. It will create different images that it needs to be. It will find its own way of safety. And what happens, our enemy to healing, which there is one, he goes, I can't let that happen. I need to keep that person wounded, fearful, under my control, perverted in their thoughts, their concept. They can't develop. I don't want them to develop a normal, healthy self-image. I don't want them to feel protected by their spouse or a job or feeling safe. I always want them to be on edge. And I will use all kinds of things, and I'm going to relate it to your story, Victoria. He will use our own thoughts, okay, our own nature that has developed from the abuse to not care for our physical body. And even if we get a diagnosis of almost stage 4 or 5 issues, we are so stubborn, we complain, but we're not disciplined enough in ourselves to do what the doctors tell us to do. I live with one. He doesn't want to quit drinking. But then when the issues come up, the fear arises. So I always had a different personality, a different willpower that said, I mean, I got hit like you did a lot. But I knew there was something I was to do in this world. I knew I had one round, one life to do it in. And I had to stay healthy. And I had to, of course, we all have strong will. Everybody that survives child abuse, their will is so strong they don't die. I mean, they're hit pretty good. But then it comes to physical issues. The trauma's still working. We're still wounded. We still have issues. Some of it's genetics. Some of it's our environmental stuff. Some of it's our own choices we make for whatever reasons. And we die early. So therefore, whatever you were supposed to do, let's say, Victoria, in your part, if you were to be a powerful, strong advocate for NAASCA and helping people to wake up from not, realizing this stuff is happening, and to be a voice out here on the radio show that you can get healed, and there's many different support systems and advocate for it. Do you think your enemy of healing and wants you to continue to be a voice out here?
Of course not.
He'd want you to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's going to come after you. But he's already got your personality created, your values, what you think is important. And you go to the doctor and they give you a bad report. You get angry and people want prayer for it, but they won't gather the willpower and the discipline to do what the doctor says. They make all kinds of excuses. I've watched it in mental health counseling. I worked in rehab hospitals. I worked as a chaplain in the emergency room, in psychiatric hospitals, in homeless shelters. People are very stubborn. They don't like authority. They want to do what they want to do. They don't want to change their habits. They don't want to believe what the doctor is saying. And so they don't. And a lot of people just learn to live with it. And most of your doctors, they go, they'll size you up pretty good whether you're going to be a cooperative patient and you're going to listen to them and you're going to take their counsel, because they know about the stuff, or not. They don't get really emotionally involved with you because most of their patients do not pay attention to what the doctor says. They have prevention in the hospitals: lose weight, exercise, quit smoking, quit drinking, get your body in shape. And most patients don't do anything with it. Doctors know that about us. So what they do is they kind of stay cold and distant. They tell you what's going on, okay? And then we start feeling the stress because we're looking at death, which most of us really aren't ready to go. And yet we don't really want to make changes. So in healing, it's the same way. Healing from childhood abuse, sexual trauma, rejection, bullying, whatever. You must have a person in your life that can help you get strong will and determination to make changes, to seek healing, stay in there when it's hurting. Getting kidney dialysis is not fun. I mean, you're going to give up hours and hours and hours and hours every single day, or every 2 or 3 days. You're going to sit in a chair, and that's all you're going to do. Life, as you know it, is over with, and you live under the sentence of death. But because we're so stubborn, we're very willful, and we're going to do what we want to do. We don't really, believe what they say. And a lot of people will just go to a pastor and say, pray for me, but they don't do anything. So I have worked with people that are like that, and as a pastor, it's like, okay, nobody's going to force you. I'll see you on the back end when you die and you get to heaven. Okay? I got to move on because I got young kids, teenagers, and they want to live, and you don't. So a lot of therapists are very cold. They go, you don't even want to come to counseling? Don't want to, do therapy? You're silly and goofy and don't want to talk about anything. You're wasting my time, and the doctors look at it. So you have to be determined to get healed. And how you get there is you must know you got a purpose. And you've got things like, for you, Victoria, anybody that comes on the NAASCA show, their job is to be advocates. Fight for NAASCA. Fight for the people to be aware of child abuse, promoting that there's help, there's healing, things like that. And then that's one. The other is promote healing. And you have to be able to say to the people, yeah, I've been there. Okay. I've gotten healed. And the reason I think I told this last time I was on there about why I had a pacemaker. I think I told somebody else. The reason I got a pacemaker is because I was ministering to a young guy. His name was Gavin. He grew up, sold by his mama to a satanic high priest. He grew up in child pornography as an infant, and he became a hardcore heroin addict, and God did a deliverance on him. And then a high priest raped him with a steel rod. He ended up in the hospital, had a lot of pain and everything, and he didn't want to take the painkillers because he was afraid he'd become addicted again and then become a heroin addict. So I said to him, I'll take your pain for you and your infection. We'll show you what the love of God is from the cross, what was taken from me and for me through a young man named Christ Jesus. I will extend that, and you will learn how powerful that kind of love is. I will take your infection that you're probably going to get on myself. I couldn't believe it that I would take and sacrifice myself for them, that I'm going to show you something. A few weeks later, I got an infection, turned out diverticulitis, went to my heart, got a pacemaker. So there are, when God will use, from the pastoral side, to help somebody believe that there's healing and hope, and there's a love, a son, sort of more powerful than they've ever imagined, that can come into them and shine all these different frequencies of his light. They can feel safe again. But one thing I always learned, Victoria, is anybody on the line, any guests?
No, this is you and I.
Okay. I'll tell another story that happened. Candy, I was working with her. She was a great high satanic queen. When she was about 3 years old, she was born into a lot of abuse and disassociation. Her little spirit needed a protector. She created a dissociative part named James. He was a young, call him gang teenager, very powerful. So Candy's spirit needed rest, and she needed to feel protected because no human being, nobody, no human spirit, nothing was protecting her. So she created, out of the gift of disassociation, a protector named James. I ran into him, and I would talk to him with her voice on the phone or in person. And he would say, yeah, he'd been there, and he was Candy's protection. All right? The spirit wants protection. The soul wants to be protected from bad people, bad things. So what happened was, when I suggested there was somebody else that could be Candy's protection 24/7, he didn't believe it. I had to explain it. And I said, why don't we give him a chance? Of course, it being a pastor, that was Christ Jesus. I said, you go ask Candy. Now, James was a creation of Candy. Now, so I'm really talking to Candy, but I'm asking James, you go talk to Candy and see if she will give this Christ Jesus a chance to be her spiritual protector deep inside of her. So when I do ministry and healing with people who've had trauma and abuse, you must get their spirit's permission. If I talk to you, Victoria, and let's say you had, I don't know if you do, dissociative parts or multiple personalities, I'm very comfortable with all of them, but they represent, they're covering the core of you. So I could talk to one little part of you, but I'm really talking to your core that's listening. So I'm very respectful, and I'd say, why don't you go ask Victoria if she would be okay with something. A lot of the human spirits in spirituality are very frightened of healing, protection. They have found their own system, okay? They've got all these things, all these different lights protecting them. Sometimes it's in the world of spirituality, it's called them demonic spirits. In mental health counseling, it's different programs: post-traumatic stress, dissociation, multiple personalities. They're protections. They are the safe personalities that deal with people and places and trauma and fear and stuff. So what happens is, when somebody needs healing, they need, how I explain it, is this white light, we'll say, coming from an outside source. We use the sun up there, shining its rays into our spirit and soul and physical body. And then it breaks out in there through our spirit into all these different frequencies of light. Like joy has a different frequency than peace. So all of that is in the agape love, this is how I do ministry, white light. Now, in mental health counseling, they know that a lot. They know that they need to resolve some issues. They're working in your soul. They work close with psychologists and psychiatrists because they know that the biochemical neurons, the biochemistry, the electrical stuff, if you've ever had any type of testing on your brain, which my son did, he fell out of his bed, hit his head on a corner of a toy box, caused seizures. He had some brain damage. When you put on the stuff on your head and you watch it on these scopes, you can see that when you blink your eyes, you can see it. It's translated into electricity. Because really, believe it or not, in your brain, it's electrical chemical. And so and it's chemicals. It's electrical that's running. If you ever watch neurons, if you ever see any studies on the brain, it's biological. And so what happens is even a memory is stored in chemical, electrical form. And there are gates and doorways and triggers that let those memories come back. They travel our nerve system. So a mental health counselor should have had some studying in the vagus nerve that starts in the brain, that travels the body, and how it is stored and stuff. I was different because as soon as I got my license, I'm working in a rehabilitation institute with brain injury patients, spinal cord injury patients, people that have been burned by gasoline, stroke patients, people who something happened, they're laying, they cannot move, they're paralyzed, children, teenagers, adults, all kinds. That wasn't normal for mental health counselors. But I had to be able to work on a team with a physiatrist, that's a doctor. I got a lot of medical training, a lot of teaching. I worked with speech therapists. I had to understand how speech was affected, occupational therapists, physical therapists. I had to work with a lot of dietitians, cardiologists, urologists, nurses. Had to learn how to write in the patient's chart, to be on call. It was a tremendous experience I had never had in just, say, seeing patients in a one-on-one in your office. Then I had chaplaincy training in a hospital, spent the night in the hospital, patients, worked with the doctors, had to, all kinds of things. Be right there next to somebody who committed suicide and they're pumping their stomach. I'm with the emergency crew, the EMTs, the nurses. It's very intense, and highly trained people. So I had different experiences that I could see life and death happening all the time, and parents and children and teenagers. So when a person has had childhood trauma, and of course, I think I've talked with Bill about this, the adult childhood experience test, the ACEs, they discovered that if you had different traumas, maybe you had a parent die, that was considered an adverse childhood experience, parental divorce, sometimes even the death of a childhood pet. And at the far end extreme was, of course, sexual abuse, child abuse, something like that, neglect, bullying, things like that. And so what happened is, for a long time, people didn't really know how that affected people in their soul, childhood abuse. And that they didn't realize the wounds that it caused. And so hopefully people will realize this has been going on. People are starting to wake up. And Victoria, you've done, I understand, do an excellent job out there in the community with advocacy and handing out information. And we need that. They just had something about human trafficking, but childhood abuse sort of gets on the back burner. You don't hear much about it anymore. Even though it's going on, you hear it more in context with human trafficking.
Yeah.
It's in, okay? But we want Victoria to be healthy.
Right.
Because we need Victoria's voice out there on the radio, out in the community. We need you advocating for NAASCA and healing. So I didn't mean to be rude to you, but I had to get to the teaching. We have a short time. And so Victoria needs to go and make some decisions about if she needs to drink more water, she got to drink more water. I mean, that's just the way it's. If you're going to complete what God is, this is what I believe, and spiritual. God puts you here, let you live through that mess.
Right.
You didn't die. And here's how I address it. I point my finger. I might look at my wall in my room, and I'll look over there and say, Satan, you and your evil stuff that came through somebody, you hit me good. You knocked me down, destroyed a lot, but you didn't take me out. You didn't kill me. You should have. Now I'm going to be your worst enemy. I'm going to be a voice of light and healing and truth. You should have taken me out. Okay? Yep. I have these different attitudes than most mental health counselors. I'm not very sympathetic. I'm going to get down to business. I don't want to hear people's stories. I've heard them. I've studied them. I don't need to hear them. We got work to do. Okay, I'll assess the situation. We got a broken leg. Well, we're getting you right in, sir. We're going to take care of it. There is no, okay, I know it's painful. We're going to and a lot of healers are like that. They don't waste time listening to stories. They already know the story. And we got to get you sort of like back out on the battlefield because there's war out there. And we need you to get healthy as quick as you can, mentally, spiritually, physically, so you can keep in the war. And a lot of victims of sexual abuse, they're sidelined. They're in the hospital, so to speak. They're wounded. They cannot help. You, Victoria, however you got into, you back in the battle. Now Satan's taking another hit at you, okay, through this kidney stuff. So you can speak to your kidneys, you know that. You can say, I am so sorry that I have abused you and I didn't drink water and blah, blah, blah. I'm so sorry. I didn't care for you. You're my body. I didn't have enough love for my kidneys to do what was right. You can apologize. Okay, I've done that. Because you're given, your soul is connected, and you have to take responsibilities, and you need to. Part of healing is, I'm so sorry. One, you got hurt in childhood. Wasn't your fault. But I'm going to make sure you're healthy. I'm going to care for my body. I'm going to make sure I eat right, drink plenty of water, don't drink and drive, don't do drugs, okay? Because I'm responsible. Because once that body is out of here, the heart stops, you're gone. And I got things to do. I got advocacy to do, okay? Yep. So I always had a little different attitude about healing. And yet I knew I was in a battle. I knew I had enemies. I bring people in my home trying to help them and love them, and they're trying to kill me. Yeah. I had people go by on bicycles going to shoot me with a silencer and a gun. Okay, when you start helping people like Victoria, when you're advocating and you're out in the community and you're speaking, there's some people out there that they don't like that. I want you to be silent.
I know that.
Okay? And they will work on you. They'll stand there, and you may not even feel it, but they can speak curses against you, and they can blind you, and you don't drink enough water, and maybe
gives me more energy. That gives me more energy to fight, actually.
Okay, but I
was told I had untreatable, inoperable breast cancer in 2000, and even the doctor said it was a miracle. You know, and having the doctor say it's a miracle to me is pretty amazing because some of them think they're God.
Well, when they say that, they mean this is an act of God. Okay, and what that tells you is God has a plan for your life.
Yep.
And He wants you out there, but you got to be healthy.
Yeah.
Because sick people don't listen to sick people. They need your voice strong. They need you active, not complaining. You know, dealing with, we're all going to have biological issues as we get older. We didn't have, eat right. I have learned you have, as you get older, you must watch what you eat. You must change your diet. You must drink the water. You've got to get off all this other cokes and stuff like that, because if you're going to stay according to the Bible, you're given 120 years for your physical body.
I believe it.
Okay? And you hear a lot of people. But if you don't take care of the physical body, maybe you're ignorant, you don't have education. Well, you got to get some. Well, you go to the doctor and he tells you to do something and you don't do it because you're stubborn, prideful. He ain't going to tell me what to do. I know how to take care of my life. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that may have served you when you were younger to survive. But as you get older, you have to change your diet. I keep my husband on a schedule. I feed him healthy foods. He's 81. I'm 71. Okay, life slows down. We care for each other, but we stay. Now, we've had hurricanes, and it's stressful, but we stay on a daily schedule. We stop at a certain time. We keep the stress out. We stay away from family, okay, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, you must learn to eat right. You can change. You must lose weight. So what happens is...
Well, not me. I don't need to lose weight. I need to gain it. Not everybody needs to lose it.
Well, there's a certain, for your body height and stuff, there's a range, and the doctors and stuff can tell you. But as you get older, get older and you sit more and stuff, now down here, we're sweating because of the heat. Okay. Yeah. If you are out where those hurricanes are coming or the fires, you're going to burn a lot of energy and calories in recovery and grieving. So you got to have more high calorie stuff. But the vagus nerve coming from the brain down through to the stomach, it is sending off the electrical, we'll call it current, neuroelectrical stuff into your stomach, so you get sick and you can't eat. And then, your body is burning energy. So because I had medical experience, and I could go to free diabetes education training, free classes, I learned a lot about we call it the mind, soul, and body connection, which you have to have. And, I watched as my father had pre-diabetes, put him through the diabetes education class, and he wouldn't change his diet. He stayed on the salt, stayed on the pot pies, the canned soups. He'd go there and he'd shake his hand and go, oh, that sounds... He wasn't a cook. He depended on his wife who had passed away. He just wasn't going to change. Okay? And he died at 92 of congestive. He fell and broke his neck and survived. But he really kept stating he wanted to live to be 120. He knew that. And I was angry with him because he could have gone there if he had kept going. He had done it correctly. And, of course, our bones, they need to be exercised and stuff and things like that. So in healing for people with childhood sexual trauma abuse or just trauma, at some point, already when it happened, the spirit said, I'm going to survive, I'm going to leave, I got an escape mechanism, defense. I might create multiple personalities. I might have an out-of-body experience, which in mental health they really don't talk about it. It's just called disassociation from the emotion. But typically you have an out-of-body experience. It's forced because typically what happens when you die, as the heart stops and you're under so much fear, your spirit will leave your body. And in Satanism, that is forced all the time, so you just live that way. Somebody at home, just a small child, okay, it happens. And they don't know then when the spirit, you can watch some great movies. I think Reese Witherspoon made a movie about it. Ghost made a movie with Patrick Swayze movie. There was a Chinese movie we just watched called Crossing Me. People in comas, they leave their bodies, and then when their spirit gets back in their body, their soul has trouble remembering what their spirit until something happens and they get those memories from the spirit. So in healing, you have a lot of people who've had those experiences in childhood, and the memories are there, the dissociative parts are there, but they only come up every so often when they feel safe. I've worked with people that had just all different kinds, dark side ones, light side ones, out in the public ones. Just you may have girls, boys, teenagers, whatever. Some might think they're an animal or something like that. And so in healing, what has to occur is a source, we're using the sun, has to send its rays, like through the water droplets, the pyramid, so you can see the variety and the multitude of the different light frequencies and colors. That's when you look at the rainbow, you see that's white light from the sun going through raindrops in a cloud, or moisture shining out, and it takes on the form of the circular, you get half of it. But you see a red, a blue, yellow, green stuff. That's in the light that's coming through the water droplets. So in healing, from a ministerial side, even mental health, they know a connection to a good therapist, support group, love coming from peer-to-peers, AA, something like that, love coming from a neighbor, a love coming from a friend, has all those rays of the different frequencies in it. And what you get from that, maybe with one person you feel safe physically, emotionally, mentally. I can tell you my story and you're not going to laugh at me or bully me. Another ray might be, I feel at peace with you. Candy's story was she could not feel protected by anybody. She created her own self-protection, James, a dissociative created part from Candy, the spirit. And so other ways that when I started learning, the master's level counselor never got any training in dissociation, multiple personalities. PhDs, a few did, but not many. Really, because what happens is you get diagnosed as a schizophrenic, bipolar, versus, at that time it was called multiple personalities. And so the master's level person, who are most of your primary private practitioners, they don't get that. Most pastors don't get any of this kind of training. Most pastors don't even get hospital emergency room training. And so in agape love, we'll call it the big guy in the sky, the sun, is shining his love down, but it's got to come into you, into your spirit, shine out all of its different rays of light into your soul. Protection, joy, peace. You get a connection. You build your self-image through love. And one of the best movies to see this at work, The Three Faces of Eve. When Eve was married to one man as Eve White, he was very abusive and dismissive. That kind of love wasn't going to do it. Eve Black was a party girl, bar attendant. She was a playgirl. None of those kind of loves were going to make it. But because she wanted healing, because she had given her daughter to her parents, she didn't feel safe keeping her. She had to go to the hospital a lot, and she wasn't one. She wanted healing. She stayed in a motel to be closer to her psychiatrist so she could get healed, so she could get her custody of her daughter back. She got divorced from this first husband, and she ran into a man. She loved him. He loved her, and she told him, I have some medical issues. I'm under the care, and I can't get my daughter back until I get healed. And he said, I love you, and I will stay with you, and no matter what. That was the kind of love she needed. But she was willing to stay in therapy, gave up her daughter, get healing, whatever it took. She met with her psychiatrist frequently. I don't know if she was on medication. But it took the gentle love of a man that would love her even in her sickness. She was upfront with him. That was able for her to have this new part, Jane, be created, come forth, and the other two who were incapable of being in a deep marriage relationship with a loving man, both Eve White and Eve Black, disappeared. Neither one of them could care for the little girl, could be in a true adult marriage situation. But because she wanted healing, she was willing to sacrifice for a time her daughter's somewhere else with her parents until this man showed up. And he loved her no matter what. And that was what she needed to anchor her and get healed. And what happens to people who have had childhood abuse trauma, they haven't gotten healed yet, so they make poor decisions. Their dissociative parts, like Eve White, she was a mousy, just ineffective woman, very violent. She couldn't get along with her husband. Then she had Eve Black, who was a wild party girl and stuff. So in the unhealed condition, she couldn't find the right type of love she was looking for because the different parts were so different. And the movie, if you get out on YouTube and you get her name, can't remember it, a true story, it happened in the southern part of the country. They show her on some YouTube videos actually switching personality. She gives her testimony. These are true stories that, I studied and watched, and I saw how did the parts disappear, where did they go. One said, I felt like I'm dying. The other said, I am not appropriate. Jane needs to be the one to survive. So there was an internal healing going on. The psychiatrist really wasn't even a part of it. He didn't really initiate the healing. He was more shocked that he was even seeing this. They'd read about it, and it was in his office. They were more professionally shocked. The man who loved her, all he did was love her with a genuine man-to-woman love, willing to stay with her no matter what, and was gentle and kind. But within Eve herself, the two parts that had survived her life with her all those years, both of them knew they were not appropriate to continue on, to be a mother, to be in this relationship with this man. One knew about him, one didn't. And it is a lot of your multiple personality parts. Some don't know anything about what's going on. They have no contact with the other parts. It was interesting because Eve Black would say she'd go out and drink and get drunk and let Eve White have the hangover. And Eve White, the first, never knew about Eve Black for a long, long time. So a lot of that goes on. So as a therapist, when you're dealing with people come in with depression, that's usually the first layer, and you're working your way back into their lives. And I used to knew what God was going to bring to me. Everybody was going to have multiple personalities. Everybody that I ministered to, talked to, whatever. And I have a sweet young lady. She's not young. She's older than me. Lives in Georgia now. Her father abused her. She had no memory of it. She got married to a lawyer, had a kid, and then about when she was 40 years old, the memories came back. Couldn't believe it. But God brought them back, and he said, you come and I'll keep healing you. And so, she has a lot of issues and a lot of health issues. And you can live many years and not have the memories of it. And that was God was bringing the memories up to do some healing. And she'll talk openly about it, but she didn't know anything about it. But I knew what I was called to do was that everybody that I talked to on the phone, met in Walmart, in church, everybody had some childhood trauma at some level. All had multiple personalities, all left their bodies, and all needed healing. And they didn't know what the love of God was. They didn't trust it. They afraid of it because, they'd been told by some bad people, I love you. And then the love hurt, and the love hurt and beat them and reject them all. So love has a problem in it bringing healing. And peer-to-peers, they feel comfortable with their peers, but the peer cannot help them. They're not strong enough to provide the protection, the safety, the love that a person needs, because they're still unhealed. And they're needy. It's like we're both needy, and we'll cling to each other, tell you my story and you tell me your story, but we can't heal each other because it takes that outside source, that we'll say the sun, that's powerful, that's gentle, like that man. The psychiatrist didn't do hypnotherapy with the girl in 3 Faces of Eve. He would just say, could I talk to Eve Black? And she'd close her eyes and blink, and there was Eve Black. Could I talk to Eve White? And she'd close her eyes, blink, and there was it. He didn't do anything, but you didn't see him in hypnosis. You didn't see aromatherapy. But what you saw, once love came through it, a genuine love, that was the anchor, atmosphere, and the light that was needed on the inside for Jane White to disappear and Eve White and Eve Black. And Jane to ascend on the inside and be the only personality. And I've read other true stories. This one lady had the same thing. She's seen a psychiatrist. She ran out of insurance money. She said, no problem. You keep coming. And then she started getting healing at home. I said, God, what is going on? They didn't pray for healing. They didn't talk about scriptures. He says, no. But that psychiatrist had a genuine human love for her, not as a sexual object, not as a client, but as a human being. He said, that is the atmosphere. That is the light that I work in, and I will use it to defeat the person's spiritual thing that caused it.
Right.
And I'll get my
that's what I had. I had a really, really good psychologist who stayed with me 13 years, and she retired. I had 31 personalities, and Victoria was created. I legally changed my name, and I don't have those personalities anymore.
And what happened is, like I said, there are wonderful people that understand this, and that, but most of your master's level social workers they don't. If you're a marriage therapist, you're not going to get it. The state licensure does not ask any questions about it. Your professional organizations don't talk about it. We had one psychologist,
or whatever you want to call it, and she ended up retiring after that. It was just like you said, that love. You know, she hung in there until that final moment, or that whatever she knew, and then she retired, and she would see me like twice a week, and I'd miss appointments because some of the alters didn't remember we even had a therapist or a psychologist, and she didn't drop us,
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is, I always said, this is one for all and all for. If I made a connection to even one part, I knew all the other parts were there. They might be watching from a distance. The word would spread. I would tell them to have a family meeting within themselves. And I knew I had none of this training at a master's level. And it took God introducing it to me in real people in church, and having to see the changes occur, understand how it worked, and study, read books, watch the movies, took notes, studied. I didn't talk to many people, didn't talk to psychiatrists. I just stayed in the Word of God. And I asked him, I said, how come we got all these multiple personality people? Okay. He says, because I'm a multiple. I'm anything I need to be at any time. I'm a father. I'm a mother. I'm a brother. I'm a king. I'm a lord. I'm a husband. I'm an owner. I'm anything. And I gave that gift to humanity. Now, Satan knows it, and he'll use it. We call it we might call it mind programming, hypnosis. They create all kinds of lies, and it really happens this way. I'll tell you how you can see it. If you're a civilian and you go into the military and you go through your basic training, a lot of torture, a lot of abuse and running and yelling, you create a part. When you're in the military and you're in that system, that's the part that's up. One of the great stories, you can go see it on YouTube, is Hershel Walker. He was a NFL football player. He retired, and he discovered he had multiple personalities. He had one personality that was in the football, and then when he wasn't playing it, didn't need it, and he has some great testimonies. And what you learn is our brains of our soul and our spirit are so amazing, so capable of doing this when we don't even know we're doing it. In psychology, it's considered a defense mechanism. And so psychology believes when you're no longer a child or a teenager, you're living in that family and you're no longer being abused, you don't need it anymore. Okay? And that'll work through hypnosis, deprogramming, medicine, and a lot of your psychologists, not all, but some can test for it, with the different tests. Parts are so smart, they ain't going to talk it, they're going to act like, because the parts, the system, do not want to be diagnosed this way, because they don't think they're crazy. These kids and they are not mentally ill to themselves. This is normal life to them. Okay. A lot of it is undiagnosed, and it's like, wow, you back one way here and one way there. Yeah, just kind of do whatever I feel like doing, A lot of this is in the LGBTQ community, but they don't know that. They're just going on their feelings. Okay. all that kind of stuff, So what you do is to get to healing is you got to have an attitude. You got to recognize something bad happened to me, messed me up. I created a system. I got a lot of hurts and wounds and got a lot of issues, but there's hope for that will help me. Got to find them. There's books and movies that will help me get there. But I got to know, why do I want to live? Why do I want to be healthy? What is healthy? I don't know. Aren't we doing all right the way we are? Yeah, we're getting along. Got a job, got a husband, got some kids. Yeah, but there's something wrong. But the system doesn't know what's wrong. It doesn't know a lot of times that it has different personalities. It doesn't know. Eve White did not know she had an Eve Black. Eve Black knew, but Eve White did not know. And if you watch the movie Sybil, you can see what horrendous parental abuse from a mother to a daughter looked like and what it created in her. And yet she didn't know she had all these different personalities. She didn't know why she was a mess. And so that Sybil's got a book out, I think, and the movie that's out was, I think it's Sally Field and Joanne Woodward, who actually, Joanne played the Three Faces of Eve. So was a lot for me to study and learn, and like I said, none of this was in mental health counseling. No pastor takes any of this classes even in his Doctor of Divinity. You can see it in stories in the Bible. You'll hear it a lot in history. If you study and look for it, there's a lot of people that are wanting the world to know this is a result of abuse, and trauma. And what happens is, like I use the military. When you're in the military, you create a military personality. Then when you retire, okay, and you're no longer in that system, you really don't have a personality to deal with family, regular society. You have to create one. And what happens is, the system you're in, and it creates the new personality. Are there any listeners out there, Miss Victoria?
No, not yet. Nope.
All right, it's 8:10. Why don't you do your announcements or about the number to call or whatever you're supposed to do?
Sure. If people would like to call in, the guest call-in number is 646-595-2118, and you can ask Pastor Deborah any questions that you have or make any comments, and we'd love to have you call in. We're on every Monday through Friday night at the same time, and you can. All these shows are archived. So this is the 3,252nd episode of the NAASCA Scan Show, and so we hope that you go back and listen to the other ones too. We have had a lot of interesting guests and discussions in the past as well. Well, I got some good news to tell you.
Okay.
I've got, on Sunday, I achieved 37 years sobriety from drugs and alcohol.
Congratulations.
And I go to a lot of meetings still and help a lot of people out there. I've done a lot of speaking, a lot of presentations, and really makes me feel good that at our AA club we have the last Saturday night of the month, we have what we call pin night. People go up and get pins. And it's really interesting to watch people that have like a month come up there, get one. And, one gal just got a year and her whole life changed. I said, isn't it amazing that in 1 year all those things can happen? She says, yeah, in the last year I've done more than I've done my whole entire life. But she was young, but still it was just really cool to see the transformation, And that's how I feel.
What happens is drugs and alcohol are used as painkillers. to bring comfort, peace,
Yeah.
dull the pain. Then what happens?
Well, it was my coping mechanism. It was how I coped. My family coped that way with all kinds of issues, and it just that sounded like a good idea. It looked like a good idea.
Okay. Well, here's what it does. It goes into the biological body. It changes the chemistry in the biological body and the brain. Therefore, from there, it affects your thoughts. Okay? It's your thoughts that are causing you the problems. You can't settle them down. You can't find the peace. So you're looking for peace and comfort. And so somebody over in China used to be opium. And you would just get in that drug state. It was a biological. But then the biological body, you're really putting the nerves, the neurons, to sleep, deadening them out. And then as they are waking up, when the pain starts, and you can't take the nerves waking up, okay, it's a different pain if you don't have it than from the trauma and the abuse. So then what happens is you become physically addicted, but you also now become mentally and emotionally addicted for the peace. Can't stand the pain of the nerves waking up. And a lot of mental health counselors don't acknowledge, never volunteered with drug addicts, never did that, okay? So they don't know the connection, the mind-body connection, okay? And it is a coping when you say, I'm seeking something I don't have, peace. When I drink, I'm with friends, or if I drink, I need just to slow down. My stress level's too high, okay? Because you don't have the inner peace in your soul.
Well, for me, it helped me to forget, and I also felt like I always had this hole inside me, and I didn't know how to fill it, and that seemed to.
That's right.
But then all of a sudden, it didn't work anymore. And
that's right.
So
what happened is it switches. Listen, it switches to a biological, disorder. Your nerves, your brain. It's like you're being anesthetized. And you really like that because you don't have to think. That empty hole, you don't have it anymore because you're zoned out. And then you get used to that, and you kind of get peaceful once, okay? And you sleep, okay? And when things start waking up, okay? But we don't realize what we're doing to our brain. We're killing neurons, killing cells, doing damage to the brain. We don't know that when we're doing it.
And the body.
Okay?
And your body.
And the body, yeah. We don't know that, okay? And then when we start waking up from it, we're so addicted to it physically and emotionally. To get to how I explain it, it's like your first shot of heroin. It's the most blissful, peaceful rest you've ever had. And I never did heroin.
Right,
okay?
right.
But I was in a church revival.
Keep chasing that high. And the thing is,
but you'll never get
more. Yeah. Because you think about.
I was in a church revival. It's called Brownsville Assembly of God. I'd walk up to somebody, and they would say, "Touch her, Lord." They put gently on my forehead, and I'd fall flat down on my back. And for 2.5 hours, it was like I was on the most deepest heroin trip ever. The peace that was there was tremendous. Okay? I became addicted to the peace of the Lord. He called it the glory blanket. Couldn't move my body. Couldn't open my eyes. It was so peaceful. It was God touching my spirit. loving on it. Just like somebody, so I understand drug addicts. Used to do a lot of drinking. I understand alcoholics. But that gets into the body, right? Then you have medical, biological issues. Okay? And what happens, cigarette smoking, same way. It's a stimulant. It's a depressant. It changes the body. You get addicted. Now, on top of all your childhood trauma and all those issues, now you got a biological, medical addiction going on. Double whammy. And so before you can really start dealing with your inner issues, you got to deal with the outward stuff in the physical body, AA, NA, something like that. And that's where a lot of people don't realize that AA was started through Jesus Christ, Christianity, not Catholicism, not Islam, not Buddhism, not Scientology, but Christianity, Protestant. And it started by Frick up in Columbus, Ohio. Went to his house, beautiful house. Went to his little gatehouse where they had the meetings. Excellent place. And what happened was, you're going to get to that there's a higher power called Christ Jesus, God, that I need him in my life, and only he can do this. And he's going to require me to forgive people and do some things. And it has stayed that way, except a lot of people have now just put in whatever higher power they want, okay? And it went into, I think, Cocaine Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and Gamblers Anonymous. And
no, Gamblers Anonymous doesn't use the 12 steps. No, they don't.
Okay.
I've been there.
But the thing, you can see when you bring in a higher power, a system of forgiveness, working through stuff, peer support that support you, that have walked the walk, been through what you've been through, and come out the other side, it works. Mental health counseling isn't like that. You don't get that. Your mental health counselor don't say nothing. They're not with you at nighttime. They're not with you throughout the years. There's no medals. They don't give out any medals. They don't do anything. Totally different. Because they're, different type of system. Can you use both of them? Yes. And are they both important? Yes. And if you got to be on psychiatric medication for a while, it's okay. And God can be working while you get that brain calmed down, get things sort of calm in there so you can think or read a book or you can eat right. Sometimes people, as you know, when you get on alcohol or drugs, you don't have a healthy diet. Your system is totally messed up.
Right.
And if you don't,
when you eat, you ruin your drunk when you eat.
Well, your body is just deficient in so many healthy things, and it's the alcohol. It kills good stuff in there. Mm-hmm. Okay, it kills your brain cells. Okay, you're actually killing your brain and your thinking ability, and so the other stuff. So, and then of course,
I even talked about when I first got sober. It took quite a while, and I don't know if this is how you describe it, but I describe it as for the fog to lift until I could even think clearly, because it still had that cloud over my brain as well. I don't know how else to describe it.
Okay, what it means is your brain, through the alcohol, has been put to sleep. Alcohol is a disinfectant, can also, it puts the nerves that are in all parts of your body and in your brain, sort of anesthetizes them, puts them in a state of sleep. Okay? So they use alcohol when they're used to use it for surgery, a lot of you, okay? And so what happens is you're actually just putting your brain, and you're killing a lot of the brain cells to sleep, the nerves to sleep. That's why you usually fall asleep after a while. Of course, you can also get alcohol poisoning, as you know. Then what happens, it's like coming out of an operation. When you start, waking up, you start feeling the pain of the operation.
Right.
Okay. But when they're doing the operating, they need you to be still, quiet. Okay. So what happens is that our bodies get addicted. I think Michael Jackson used to do propofol, and he had a doctor that would give him this anesthesia so he could sleep at nighttime.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he couldn't sleep. When you're an entertainer, you're up late at night doing shows and stuff, and your adrenaline's going on, your hormones, your sugar's flowing, and now you got to go to sleep, and you can't do it. So he would take propofol, I think it was, and he overdosed on it because his doctor didn't watch it. So he was really basically anesthetized. So taking alcohol does that, and you feel free on your way there, and you're happy and stuff, and then you kind of pass out. And most trauma people can't sleep at night. There's too much going on the inside. Their parts come up that have been down all day, and so they don't get the rest, and it dulls the pain. And then, of course, sometimes if you are around certain types of abuse, they use drugs and alcohol to keep you subdued. And so they don't want you active. They want you just compliant. Okay?
Yep.
And so, when you get there, child abusers, a lot of them, I don't think Three Faces of Eve or Sybil ever really drank. They're okay, Eve Black did. She danced and would drink alcohol and stuff to have fun. But it wasn't to dull the pain. That was her personality. And I have known so many people. So healing people from abuse takes a dedicated, educated therapist or psychologist or pastor, and to, like you said, stay with them, know what's going on. I don't have to ask anybody any questions. They don't have to tell me their story, because I knew the kind of people I was going to be doing ministry with, the Victorias of the world. And it didn't matter if I was in Walmart. It didn't matter where I was. On the phone, YouTube, Victorias of the world. And I already knew what was there. So, I knew how to deal with them. But I had to get educated. I had to get experience. And I had to know that was my calling. Like for you, every time you go and do a community work advocate, you're speaking to ignorant people, and you have a job to do out there. And you just know these people don't know nothing about this.
Well, I've had many people come up to me in AA and thank me for things that I've said, and just say that I was a blessing, and that that I give them inspiration. Because I talk about breast cancer, that could have gotten me back out there.
All right, we got 5 minutes. I want you to do this on your own. When we hang up, I want you to point your finger at a wall and say, I will hear the doctor. I will listen to him. I will drink more water. You speak to your kidneys. You ask them to forgive you for misabusing you. You speak to the enemy of healing, the enemy of NAASCA. You point your finger out and say, you should have killed me because I'm going to be your worst enemy. I will live and declare healing. And my kidneys will. You declare your kidneys to get healed. You speak to them. You say, if I need to drink. Okay. You do it's inner work you're doing to yourself. Right. You're talking to your body. You're listening to the doctors. And you're going to speak to your enemy that tried to take you out in childhood. And you say, oh, boy, you ain't getting me off the battlefield.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a war against you, whatever you want to name it. All right, it is 8:26. You got 4 minutes to close out the show or whatever.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on again, and you're very dedicated to this Blog Talk Radio show, and I really appreciate it. We do want to read something that we read at the Zoom meetings, and it's called the NAASCA Serenity Prayer. And it's, please grant me the serenity to stop beating myself up for not doing things perfectly, the courage to forgive myself because I always try my best, and the wisdom to know that I am a good person with a kind heart. And I like reading that. It's just very simple, and it means a lot. It really does mean a lot to me. And then we have 3 times a week we have Zoom meetings, Zoom support group meetings, that people can find that on the website. And we have a lot of educational material too. And so if people are listening that are not survivors but want to spread NAASCA's message, there's a lot of information on the website as well. There's information for parents that want to talk to their kids.
That's right. That's right.
You know, healthy touch and that. And I've shared a lot of that with people that are not survivors, but they'll say, well, I'm really concerned about my kids. And it's like an in to say, hey, we got something on the
here's what
website.
you want to do. You want to realize that you're to keep doing that. So if you address your kidney issues, you do what the doctors say, do some research, drink your water, and you declare that you still have purposes. You ain't going out yet. You got work to do.
Well, thank you, Pastor Deborah. And we got like 90 seconds, so I'm going to go ahead and play the end song. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And you can listen to all the shows, and have a good night, and we'll see you on the radio tomorrow night. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
I'll know tomorrow, 'cause that's all